The Triforce, a magical artifact that the entire Legend of Zelda franchise revolves around. It can do anything, it's perfect, and most of all, it's very shiny. But nobody ever really uses it. Only a handful of times this apparently legendary item was actually used. But what exactly happened? Who used it and why? And how does it affect Hyrule? Well, let's find out. As the Golden Goddesses descended from the heavens upon the chaos that was Hyrule, they used their divine power to create the earth, the spirit of law, and life. After the Golden Goddesses completed their labors for creating this new world, they departed for the heavens. But exactly where they had left the world, 3 golden triangles could be found, only known as the Triforce. A divine relic with untold power that no mere mortal could ever comprehend. Made out of the 3 virtues of the gods that created it: power, wisdom, and courage. This was the most important point in the history of the Legend of Zelda, the creation of the universe and the artifact that holds it all together. But these golden triangles also possess immense power that could be abused. And while the world was at peace first, quite quickly rumors about this infinite pool of energy were spreading. And as the people became curious, greed started to overtake their minds, bending their will and hearts, leading to a great desire for the Triforce. And within no time, evil began to seep into their hearts, and it all went wrong. When the gods of old departed from the world, they trusted their ultimate power, the Triforce, in the hands of the goddess Hylia to protect it. However, in a very short amount of time, Demise, the demon, who wanted to make the world his own, gathered an army and launched an attack trying to get his hands on the power guarded by Hylia. In the end, he failed, being defeated by the 5 tribes and Hylia, who sealed Demise away. But years later, he returned. Even though the seal was effective, it weakened over time, and Demise tried to escape in the form of the imprisoned multiple times, forcing the newly appointed hero of Hylia, known as Link, to contain the spread of darkness multiple times. But he was also working towards a plan to solve this situation once and for all, using the Triforce for the very first time in its existence to vanquish this evil. Link succeeds in acquiring it, and with the Triforce in hand, the young hero goes up onto the statue of the goddess and makes the first wish ever: the destruction of Demise. Soon after, the Triforce's power causes the entire island containing the goddess statue to break free from Skyloft and plummet down to the surface, thus returning to its original location at the sealed grounds and destroying the imprisoned just as it attempts to break out once more, getting rid of this evil once and for all. But in the end, the hero was tricked. Demise, his right-hand man, Girahim, was able to go back in time and bring Demise back. However, we aren't here to look at that. We are here for the Triforce's first wish. Overall, it is known that this artifact can do anything, but how it killed Demise was quite underwhelming. The Triforce just used brute force, that other gods or figures could also do. There was nothing truly magical about it. Aside from that, the thing that always confused me in this scenario is that Hylia herself, who was fighting Demise before she decided to send the Hylians skyward for their own protection, was in possession of the Triforce, which she could have used to make a wish to get rid of Demise forever. But for some reason, she didn't. This is because divine beings like gods and deities cannot use the Triforce for some reason, but someone like Demise can, which doesn't really make sense. So overall, the first time this incredibly powerful artifact was used was a bit disappointing, and if it was used earlier, it would have prevented a lot of misery. However, this wasn't the only time it was used, and in later titles, its power was a lot more impressive. After the events of Skyward Sword, where the world was saved from the ultimate evil, something new and beautiful was allowed to flourish. A kingdom was formed known as Hyrule, as the Hylians left the Sky Islands behind them and descended down from the heavens. While this kingdom experienced a lot of turmoil over the years, from petty squabbles over the Triforce, which led to the creation of the Temple of Time and other protection mechanisms, to the rise and subsequent fall of Vati. However, at some point, Demise's reincarnation reincarnation was born, and within no time, this new evil known as Ganondorf was infiltrating Hyrule Castle. This foreign leader of an obscure tribe that lived in the desert tried to create a close bond between his people and the Kingdom of Hyrule. However, as expected, he had ulterior motives. All that time, he was looking for the Triforce, and when Link finally opened the doorway to it, Ganondorf saw his chance. As Link retrieved the Master Sword from the pedestal of time, he unknowingly opened the gates to the Sacred Realm, allowing Ganondorf to enter uncontested. And so Ganondorf seized this opportunity and attempted to lay claim to the Triforce. However, when he tried to use it, there was one problem. If a person whose wisdom, power, and courage are out of balance tries to use the Triforce, it will shatter into 3 separate pieces, leaving Ganondorf with the Triforce piece of power, because that's the trait he embodies the most, with the other 2 pieces going to Link and Zelda. So while Ganondorf tried to actually make a wish, he utterly failed, obtaining only 1 piece. Still, using its power, he proceeded to conquer the Sacred Realm and became the self-proclaimed King of Evil. But even though he took over the Sacred Realm, the divine realm of the Triforce, and even took over Hyrule Castle as well as the town connected to it, he didn't actually use the Triforce. The Golden Goddesses clearly put some thought into this ultimate power. Only someone who is pure can use it in its complete form. So no wishes were made. Sure, parts of it were used to accomplish amazing feats, which could be seen in later games as well. However, we are here to see what is possible when using the complete Triforce. Sure, it's impressive that in later games, figures like Ganondorf can survive mortal wounds or create powerful demons and creatures, but we want to see what all pieces can do together, which actually didn't happen in Ocarina of Time. Still, Ganondorf was able to do a lot of damage to the world, leading to the famous timeline split. 3 timelines with completely different outcomes that led to completely different universes. And of course here, the Triforce remained the centerpiece of all the games. And in the adult timeline where Ganondorf returned and no hero showed up, the Triforce was actually used to change the world forever. With the evil Ganondorf being defeated by the hero Link and sealed away in the now corrupted Sacred Realm, the world had a chance to heal. But quite quickly, everything went wrong. Ganondorf escaped and attacked, laying waste to Hyrule, before the gods finally intervened, flooding the land to seal all evil below the waves. Decades later, the events of the Wind Waker took place, and near the end of that game, after the hero and princess who had been gone for ages returned, all the Triforce pieces came together, when the wielders finally met again. Ganondorf ended up defeating both Zelda and Link, and once again united the Triforce, eager to make his wish to save the Gerudo from the harsh conditions of the desert and the cruelties of the Hylian Kingdom. But someone else was first. All of a sudden, the spirit of the former King of Hyrule, who helped Link during his journey, touched the Triforce right before Ganondorf was able to make his wish. He asked the Triforce to flood the lands of Hyrule and for a future filled with hope for those above. Now the effects were immediate. Water started pouring down, and when Ganondorf was defeated, Hyrule was gone. But in many ways, this wish was also rather vague. So what did the Triforce actually do in the end? Well, I think in this instance, it had 3 effects. First, it flooded the lands of Hyrule, and second, it most likely helped Link and Zelda during their fight with Ganondorf, almost ensuring their victory. However, I think there's also a potential third effect, creating a new kingdom which was seen 2 games later in Spirit Tracks. Because following the events of Phantom Hourglass, Link, Tetra, also known as Zelda, and the other pirates came across a new land, and here Tetra founded the new Kingdom of Hyrule. It could very well be that the Triforce played a big role in this, creating a future place for the Hylians that survived Ganondorf's many crimes. Now in-game this is never confirmed, but in many ways it would fit with the wish made by the King of Hyrule. But regardless, it shows how powerful the Triforce is. This was much more of a show of power compared to Skyward sword, and has a massive impact on this timeline as a whole. However, we have other timelines and games to look at, because while very little happened in the child timeline, with only the fragments playing a role and granting some like Ganondorf power, no wishes were made. But during the downfall timeline, the Triforce was used extensively, which in some cases led to ultimate disaster. In one timeline, the hero did not succeed. He was struck down by Ganondorf, and the King of Evil was able to get his hands on all pieces of the Triforce. So, as a last resort, the 7 sages led by Princess Zelda sealed Ganon and the Triforce within the corrupted Sacred Realm, now known as the Dark World. It's a bit mysterious as to how they were able to pull this off while Ganon had all the Triforce pieces. He was all-powerful at that point and with a wish could make anything possible, but they were able to seal him away for a short amount of time. However, peace didn't last. He tried to return multiple times, and in A Link to the Past, it all came to a head. Aghanim, the alter ego of Ganon, took over the kingdom and broke the seal between the world of light and dark, allowing evil to spew forth. So Link confronted Ganon and defeated him, allowing Link to make a wish. Now, before this, Ganon did apparently make a wish to conquer the world, which changed the Sacred Realm into the Dark World. But it's a bit weird that somehow the Triforce didn't let Ganon rule Hyrule and was allowed to be sealed away. The Triforce does say, the stronger the wish, the more powerful the Triforce's expression of that wish. So it could be that he was not specific enough, or his desire and passion weren't intense enough. It's a bit vague and almost seems to reject him, which isn't something we saw when the King of Hyrule made his wish. And when Link approaches the Triforce, it says to take a wish in his heart, and works perfectly. Now Link used its power to cleanse the evil that had been done by Ganon, healing those that had been wounded by his evil, restoring the Dark World to the Golden Land, and restoring peace to Hyrule. And after that, the Triforce once again rested in the hands of Hyrule's royal family, just like it did in Ocarina of Time. This is probably the biggest wish that the Triforce ever granted, affecting almost every person living in the Zelda universe. However, while this was the most powerful wish granted by the Triforce so far, it is nothing compared to what happened in A Link Between Worlds. After the events of the Oracle games, the Triforce split into 3 pieces once again. Ganon claimed the Triforce of Power, the Triforce of Wisdom stayed with the royal family, and the Triforce of Courage merged into the heart of the hero Eternal, where it slumbered. After this, many similar events to A Link to the Past unfolded. The 2 games are pretty similar after all. However, instead of the other world being the corrupted Sacred Realm, it was a parallel universe that once had its own Triforce until they made a horrendous decision. The land of Lorule was once a land much like Hyrule, and possessed its own version of the Sacred Realm and Triforce. However, just like we saw in Hyrule, the people of Lorule began to lust for their Triforce's limitless power, and so greed began to take over their hearts and minds. Many lives were lost as people warred over it, doing anything they possibly could to make a wish using the infinite energy of the Triforce. And so, instead of sealing the Triforce away in the Sacred Realm, to end these wars and squabbles over this artifact, the royal family decided to destroy it. However, this was the worst decision they could ever make, because without its Triforce, Lorule slowly began to crumble. As the generations went by, Lorule fell apart further and further into disrepair and edged closer to its doom. It was clear that the Triforce was necessary for keeping the world together. Without power, wisdom, and courage, the world ceased to exist. This is something we never knew about the Triforce. The gods clearly left it behind for a reason, because the power of the Triforce that embodies the golden goddesses fuels life in the world they created. Now, we don't really know how they destroyed it. The only thing that makes sense is that they used the Triforce itself to destroy it, wishing for the destruction of it. But as soon as they did this, there was no way back, and so the Lorulians became desperate. They decided to steal the Triforce of another universe to replace their own, and of course both Link and Zelda had to stop them. They succeeded and took the Triforce back to Hyrule, dooming Lorule. But using the Triforce, they did the impossible. They made a wish together on Hyrule's Triforce to restore its Lorulean counterpart, making it reappear and healing the dying world. And this is most likely the most powerful wish ever performed by the Triforce, creating a second Triforce that holds the same amount of immense energy. So truly anything is possible, even new Triforces. But all of this also shows how important this artifact is for the world itself. It makes sure that the world can continue to exist. This is what most likely allows it to grant wishes. It has full control over the reality that the user lives in, allowing it to adjust anything they want. However, while you would expect the world to heal from this point onward, the downfall timeline actually kept getting darker, and the Triforce didn't help whatsoever. Before the world was created by the golden goddesses, there was nothing, and in this void lived a primordial evil known as Null. For centuries he was dormant and didn't appear in the Zelda games, until he decided to return in Echoes of Wisdom. In order to take control of the world that was once his, he started opening rifts into the void, which helpers of the gods tried to keep together. And while Link is swallowed up by this evil, Zelda manages to escape, and together with her new companion, saves Link and defeats Null together with the hero. Now Null did try to make a wish, but he failed due to his imbalanced heart. But after his defeat, once again, a wish was made. Tri and their friends utilized its power to mend the remaining rifts, restoring the world to how it once was. Which isn't the most impressive wish, because this is exactly what the Triforce is supposed to do. And while many would think that the world would be at peace after this, the royal family actually made a massive mistake. According to Nintendo's timeline, the royal family started using the Triforce, and while many would expect this to lead to a golden era, it actually did the opposite. Prosperity gave way to decline, with Hyrule being reduced to nothing more than a small regional power. Overall, the kingdom was in ruins. So, even when those with pure hearts and good intentions used the Triforce, disaster ensues. It is clear that no matter what you do, it is best to leave the Triforce alone. In both Zelda 1 and 2, you can see that the kingdom is a shadow of its former self, and the Triforce isn't in the hands of the royal family anymore. The pieces are scattered across the land, but in the very last game of the timeline, Link does manage to collect all the pieces and makes a wish. Zelda 2 is the first game ever where we saw the full Triforce. Before this, courage was not part of it yet. Now in the prologue of the game, it is mentioned that a historic king of Hyrule used the Triforce to keep peace in Hyrule. However, he eventually passed away, and fearing someone would misuse the powers of the Triforce, they hid the Triforce piece of courage in the Great Palace. Now, in order to obtain the final piece, a hero would have to go through 6 palaces as well as defeat his own shadow. In the end, Link overcame these obstacles and obtained the 3rd Triforce piece, using its power to ask for one of the most underwhelming wishes in the entire franchise, waking the slumbering Princess Zelda, who was in this state due to her jealous brother using magic on her. Really, that's all there is to it. Nothing to write home about. And aside from this, the Triforce wasn't used in the Zelda games. It could be that Zelda used it in Breath of the Wild. We do see the Triforce symbol glow on the back of her hand as she deals the final blow to Calamity Ganon, but really aside from that, the whole Triforce wasn't used at all. In the most recent 3D title, they don't even care about it and only want secret stones. Now, as we have seen, this artifact is crucial for the world of Hyrule and was able to do some astonishing things. However, this isn't the only fascinating artifact that we looked at. I also made a video about who is trapped in the Mirror Shield, what happened to the Ocarina of Time, and can the Mirror of Twilight ever be fixed? So be sure to check those out right now. Aside from that, don't forget to become a member for all kinds of cool perks like early videos. Be sure to join us on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday for the live streams here on YouTube, and like and subscribe so you won't miss the next video.